Good afternoon. It is Monday, August the 21st, about 1:50 p.m. This is meteorologist Shay Gibson of Leading Edge Weather and Sail Flow slash Weather Flow, bringing you a preliminary, just a very high 5-day out preliminary forecast for the Savannah Cup, rescheduled Savannah Cup for this year. That'll be going out Friday afternoon. So I do apologize in advance. I have a little bit of laryngitis. I'm going to try to keep my voice as low as I can and as steady as possible. It might be a little scratchy. So real quick, let me put myself in the corner, go to the CORA website here where you can find on the main page the Savannah Cup Skippers meeting. I'll be there Thursday evening to give a final forecast for that. All the information about the Savannah Cup. And if the Skippers information where I'll be posting the forecast will be here, offshore wind and weather is where you'll go to see the most recent forecast, most updated forecast. So with that said, let's talk about what the weather is going to do this week. So we know that by Wednesday, we have high pressure setting up along the New England states of the USA. Let me get my draw tool out here. Let that load for just a second. But this high pressure is going to be sending down our first taste of fall. So we haven't had a northeast slash east northeast wedge in quite some time. So we're going to be pleasantly inviting that cooler weather down for those of you that really like it for that first taste of fall. But basically Wednesday into Thursday, we're going to be seeing this east northeast wedge working its way down. And it's also going to be building the swell as it does. So we're going to have a little bit of residual swell to deal with even into Friday and into Friday night and Saturday morning. So what that does is it sets up for a 2-day event, basically lasting from Wednesday and into Thursday, where the high pressure starts to weaken. We get basically the ridge axis building down across the southeast. A warm front develops out of old troughing across the area. And then what happens is that dissipates, but the high weakens on Thursday and starts to fade out. And as we get into Friday, that warm front lifts north and east out of the area and a cold front sweeps in. So what that means is we lie in a prefrontal zone with Atlantic high pressure, not the strongest, but it's enough to bring some modest to possibly moderate southerly winds by late afternoon to evening. Just depends on how much that Bermuda high builds behind that departing warm front. So we should expect winds to come up from the south around it and head to the front. As we get into Friday night, we will have to watch for a little bit of that nocturnal jetting from the southwest. We'll get into some of those details shortly, but just giving you an idea of what's going to happen. I don't see much in the way of storming activity because the warm front will be lifting. We always have to deal with hot weather, instability, a little bit of warm front activity, troughing. We always have to deal with some element of thunderstorms, right? And mainly in the afternoon. So that will be there for Friday. I will be in touch with the weather service to make sure there's nothing severe on hand as far as the prefrontal build goes. It looks like from here, from this point Friday morning to Saturday morning, it looks like we're okay. Nothing crazy going on, like a full washout by any means. So we'll have to keep on watching. So I do want to talk about some of the wave action. And, we look at the Nearshore Wave Prediction Center. And what my concern is that there's going to be a residual spike in the waves. And I think they're arriving a little bit later in this model than what perhaps is going to happen. So on 8:23 on Wednesday is when the swell is going to start to pick up through the day. That could be on track with that wind direction increasing 16 to 20 knots through the day. We're going to get that wind, the waves really excited on that. And that's going to last and then burn off into Friday as we get to the 24th, and Thursday it peaks out early morning. Then we see it slowly fading Friday. By the time we get into Friday evening and into the night, we're looking at about 3.5 feet at a very short period, around 7 or 8 seconds. Not too short. It doesn't make for too hard of a sailing event out there. It just means it might be a little bumpy, and this could come down actually a little bit sooner. So if we look at the GFS on Surfline, going from Wednesday, you can see the northeast wedge working that swell down the coast, right? Like you might think that some of that is related to tropical systems, but it's not. The GFS and the Euro keeping Franklin pretty far out over the ocean. There is some kind of toggling going on later past Thursday, Friday, but it looks like the GFS keeps this one out and then swings it back in over towards Bermuda. This is the Wave Watch 3 model, so there are varying opinions about what that system is going to do, but I think the swell is pretty much going to go into Friday with a fade from the east, and then we're going to see a little bit of a southeast bump or east southeast bump off of Franklin from a distance, just to keep the swell excited a little bit. So that's kind of what we're looking at through the weekend. So I love using Surfline on the charting for that kind of thing, for just monitoring maybe where the swell is going to come from, which direction, and what period. I think we're going to be okay. Let's take a look at Tempest, and I'm just going to pick this Corinth buoy is 18 miles out. 4-point forecast. Look at the modeling. We're going to start Wednesday. It's going to be pretty strong, probably in the 18 to 22 knot ranges as we get up in the mid to late morning hours. We see that wedge working down. And then as we get into Thursday, we see it start to fade east-northeast as the high relaxes, the warm front starts to develop, the gradient loosens, and then as we get into Friday, the winds veer east, and then eventually they start to come up from the south by default as that Atlantic high pressure rebuilds. So by late afternoon, we're looking at 11 to 15 knots. Might be a nice little healthy sea breeze in the afternoon, late afternoon hours from the south-southwest as they assume the correct rolls for the sea breeze structure along a prefrontal build. And then by nighttime, we're looking at increases in the evening, and that nocturnal jet starts. And then by 9, 10 o'clock, we may be up to 14 to 18 knots well offshore. So just be aware of that nocturnal jet as the winds lean out a little bit more southwest through the evening and night. And then as we get into overnight Saturday, the nocturnal jet, the models, the NAM 12, the GFS, they'll see those fade a little bit, but that could hold up all the way until 5 a.m., especially with the front being so close by. Now, if the front drops to mid-state, then yes, they're more likely to hold through into the morning hours and bleed right into a southwest or even a west-southwest pattern all the way through down the coastline. So what does that mean? Well, it means that as you head down the coast, you might be going towards a headwind through the night from the southwest as the nocturnal jets cut on. So your tacks may be a little bit longer out off the coast versus inshore. Again, with the southwest flow, it's going to probably be a little stronger towards the coastline simply because the nocturnal jetting at times can be residing along the coast. But this one looks, I'd say the width of the ribbon of this nocturnal jetting phase can be anywhere from here and all the way out to 20, 30 miles out. So the breadth of that nocturnal jetting phase could be rather wide offshore, no matter what. So the farther out you are, the more swell, shorter period, and so on and so forth. I think your imagination can kind of make up the rest on the visual there. But sea surface temperatures about 85, 86 degrees. We look like we're going to get pretty warm Friday, Saturday before we drop down again. Looks like possibly another northeast event may occur into next week. But either way, we're starting to see the first tinges of fall in the air. So it should be a rather comfortable race overnight in the low to mid 70s with enough wind to ride. So that's a good thing. Moon phase will be at a quarter moon for the visual overnight, heading towards, it'll be a waxing moon. So we're heading towards full moon at that point. Probably at neap tides or heading towards neap tides where we have a higher than low and a lower than high, meeting towards the middle. So nothing too much on the swing, but I think that'll do it for the forecast. I really am excited to say that it looks like there's going to be some decent wind as long as all the timing and everything works out where the Atlantic Ridge builds back. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I'll have another forecast coming out likely Wednesday. Right, we'll just watch it for tomorrow and see if everything's on track, and then Wednesday I'll come out with an initial forecast, followed up with the skippers meeting on Thursday, and then we'll have a final one Friday morning if needed. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. Take care. I'll have this on the website soon, but otherwise I'll be sharing it out in all the social media groups. Thank you. Take care.